My name is Hester, and at 53 years old, I thought I knew what heartbreak felt like. I was wrong. When my beloved sister Margaret passed away from cancer, she left my daughter Emma $25 million. We celebrated thinking our financial struggles were finally over, but within weeks, Emma looked me straight in the eye and said the words that shattered my world forever. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Please hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next would tear our family apart in ways I never imagined possible. Growing up, Margaret and I couldn't have been more different. She was 10 years older, brilliant with numbers, and destined for greatness. I was the practical one, content with a simple life. While Margaret built her tech consulting empire worth $50 million, I married my high school sweetheart David, a hard-working mechanic with calloused hands and the biggest heart in our small town. We raised our daughter Emma in David's inherited ranch house, teaching her the value of hard work and family loyalty. I worked double shifts as a nursing assistant while David fixed cars from dawn to dusk. Money was always tight, but our home was filled with laughter and love. Margaret never married or had children. She poured all her maternal instincts into spoiling Emma. Every birthday brought lavish gifts. Every summer meant luxury vacations to places we could never afford. Margaret paid for Emma's private school education and promised her, "You'll never want for anything, sweetheart. Aunt Margaret will make sure of that." Despite the wealth gap between us, Margaret carried guilt about her success while we struggled. She'd send anonymous checks that I'd stubbornly return, insisting we'd make our own way. But deep down, I knew she was just trying to help the family she loved. When Margaret was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, I took leave from work to care for her. Those final 6 months revealed her true character. Stripped of her corporate power suits and boardroom confidence, she was just my big sister again, scared and vulnerable. Between chemotherapy sessions, she'd hold my hand and whisper, "I've made arrangements, Hester. Emma will be taken care of. You've raised such a beautiful daughter." Emma was 21, then working part-time at a local coffee shop while attending community college. She'd visit Margaret every day after classes, reading novels aloud and painting her aunt's nails in bright colors that made them both giggle. Emma was grateful, hardworking, and devoted to our tight-knit family. She helped with household expenses and never complained about our modest lifestyle. The day Margaret died, Emma held my hand at the hospital bedside. "I'm going to miss her so much, Mom," she cried. "She always believed I could be anything I wanted." I had no idea those words would take on such a twisted meaning. 3 weeks later, Margaret's lawyer called Emma with news that would change everything. Or so we thought. The phone rang on a Tuesday morning while Emma was getting ready for her shift at the coffee shop. Mr. Harrison's voice was formal but warm as he explained Margaret's will. Emma had inherited $25 million plus Margaret's Beverly Hills mansion and a diversified investment portfolio worth millions more. Emma dropped the phone and burst into tears. David and I rushed to her side as she stammered, "She left me everything. Everything, Mom. We're never going to struggle again." That night, we sat around our kitchen table with takeout Chinese food, dreaming about the future. Emma promised this inheritance would transform all our lives. She'd pay off our mortgage, buy me the reliable car I'd needed for years, and finally take that family vacation to Europe we'd talked about since she was little. Within days, Emma made good on her promises. She paid off our 30-year mortgage in full and handed me keys to a brand new Honda Accord. "No more worrying about money, Mom," she said, hugging me tight. Aunt Margaret wanted us to be happy. Emma's first visit to Margaret's Beverly Hills estate left her speechless. The mansion sprawled across 3 acres, complete with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, an infinity pool, and a staff of 3 who'd maintained the property for years. Emma wandered through rooms larger than our entire house, touching silk curtains and Italian leather furniture with reverent fingers. Margaret's social circle welcomed Emma with open arms. These were people who summoned to charity galas, owned multiple homes, and thought nothing of spending thousands on a single dinner. Emma was invited to country club luncheons and exclusive boutique shopping trips. At first, these experiences seemed to energize Emma. She'd call me bubbling with stories about wine tastings and art gallery openings. But gradually, I noticed subtle changes in her speech patterns. She began correcting my grammar and suggesting I dress more appropriately when visiting her new estate. Emma started spending more time in Beverly Hills, claiming she needed to learn the ropes of managing her inheritance. She hired a personal shopper, joined an exclusive gym, and began taking etiquette lessons. When I expressed concern about these expenses, she laughed dismissively. "I can afford it now, Mom. You don't understand what my life requires." The first truly hurtful comment came during dinner at an upscale restaurant Emma had chosen. I'd worn my best dress, but apparently it wasn't enough. "Maybe you should consider taking some etiquette classes, Mom," she said quietly. "These people notice everything, and I can't have you embarrassing me." David's face darkened at those words, but I squeezed his hand under the table. Our daughter was adjusting to a new world, I told myself. Surely this phase would pass. Within 2 months, Emma had moved permanently into Margaret's mansion. She quit community college, claiming she needed private tutors to prepare for her new social responsibilities. The staff who'd once served Margaret now catered to Emma's every whim, and she embraced the luxury with frightening enthusiasm. Our weekly family dinners became exercises in humiliation. Emma would critique our table manners, suggest we upgrade our conversational topics, and wince visibly when David mentioned his work at the garage. The daughter who'd once helped me cook Sunday meals now hired a private chef and spoke about maintaining standards. Emma's new friends were wealthy socialites who'd inherited their money and considered anyone working class to be beneath notice. They filled her head with poisonous ideas about elevated living and necessary social boundaries. Emma absorbed their attitudes like a sponge, transforming from my loving daughter into someone I barely recognized. The country club incident still makes me nauseous to remember. David and I had dressed in our finest clothes for Emma's invitation to Sunday brunch. But when her friends asked about us, Emma introduced us as family friends rather than her parents. I watched my husband's face crumble as our daughter denied our very relationship. "She's ashamed of us, Hester," David said that night, his voice breaking. "Open your eyes. Our daughter is gone." I tried defending Emma, making excuses for behavior that grew more cruel by the week. She canceled our traditional coffee dates, stopped calling, except to issue instructions about social events, and hired a financial advisor who convinced her that wealthy families maintain certain standards, and that distance from past associations is normal for people of her new status. The jewelry incident was particularly painful. During dinner at yet another expensive restaurant, I couldn't pronounce the name of. Emma stared at my simple gold wedding ring with obvious distaste. "I could upgrade that for you, Mom," she said, pulling out her phone to show me diamonds that cost more than David's annual salary. "You can't wear that cheap thing when you're with me." When I explained the ring's sentimental value, Emma's expression turned cold. "Sentiment doesn't match my lifestyle anymore, Mom. I need space to grow into who I'm meant to be. You wouldn't understand." Those words haunted me for weeks. My daughter, who'd once treasured family photos and handmade gifts, now valued only monetary worth. The Emma who'd cried at sentimental movies and helped elderly neighbors carry groceries had been replaced by someone calculating and heartless. David's health began deteriorating from the stress. His blood pressure spiked, and he developed heart palpitations that landed him in the emergency room twice. But even then, Emma was too busy with spa appointments and charity luncheons to visit her father in the hospital. The call came on a Thursday morning while I was getting ready for work. Emma's voice was different, somehow colder and more businesslike than I'd ever heard it. "Mom, I need you and Dad to move out of the house immediately," she said without preamble. I have other plans for the property, and you have 48 hours to pack everything and leave. I thought I'd misheard her. Sweetheart, what do you mean? This is our home. Where would we go? That's not my problem anymore, Emma replied, her tone devoid of emotion. I own that property now, and I'm not responsible for your poor life choices. You should have planned better for your retirement instead of expecting me to take care of you forever. My hands started shaking so violently I could barely hold the phone. Emma, please. This house has been in Dad's family for generations. All our memories are here. Can't we work something out? I don't need you anymore, Mom, she said, and I heard voices in the background encouraging her. Please don't contact me unless it's an emergency. I have important meetings to attend. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone in disbelief. David found me 20 minutes later, still sitting on our bed in my work uniform, tears streaming down my face. The next 48 hours were a nightmare blur. 30 years of memories had to be hastily thrown into boxes while neighbors watched from their windows. The furniture we'd bought piece by piece during lean years, Emma's childhood artwork still magneted to our refrigerator family photos spanning decades, all of it reduced to cardboard containers stacked in a moving truck. David's fury was magnificent and terrifying. He wanted to fight the eviction legally, but we both knew Emma had unlimited resources while we had none. Our daughter had systematically cut us off from her new life, blocked our phone numbers, and instructed her staff to turn us away if we appeared at the mansion. We found a tiny one-bedroom apartment across town, the only place we could afford on short notice. The rent consumed most of our income, forcing us to sell treasured possessions just to buy groceries. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital while David took on weekend work, both of us exhausted and heartbroken. Emma's final text message arrived 3 days after the eviction. I don't need you anymore. Please respect my boundaries and don't contact me unless it's an emergency. I read those words until they burned into my memory. The daughter I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through childhood illnesses and loved unconditionally, had discarded us like yesterday's garbage. I questioned everything I'd done as a mother, wondering where I'd gone so terribly wrong. David's health declined rapidly under the stress. His doctor prescribed heart medication and warned about the dangers of sustained emotional trauma. Some nights, I'd find him sitting in our cramped living room, staring at family photos and asking, "How did we lose her? Hester? How did we lose our little girl?" I had no answers, only an ache that seemed to consume my entire chest. 3 days after our eviction, Mr. Harrison called with urgent news. His voice carried a strange mixture of confusion and alarm as he requested an immediate meeting. "There's been a serious misunderstanding about Margaret's will," he explained when we arrived at his downtown office. "I need to ask you both some very specific questions about Emma's behavior since inheriting the estate." David and I exchanged glances, unsure what Emma might have told her lawyer about us. Mr. Harrison opened a thick file and spread several documents across his mahogany desk. "Have you read the complete terms of Margaret's will?" he asked, studying our faces carefully. "Emma said she inherited everything," I replied. "The money, the house, the investments. We assumed it was straightforward." Mr. Harrison's expression grew troubled. "It's far from straightforward, Mrs. Coleman. Margaret included very specific conditions that Emma apparently hasn't mentioned to you." He pulled out a legal document covered in dense text and highlighted several passages in yellow. "The inheritance comes with strict stipulations about family relationships. Emma can only access the funds if she maintains a close, respectful relationship with you, her parents." My heart stopped beating for several seconds. "What do you mean?" Margaret was very clear. Mr. Harrison continued reading directly from the will. "Emma must live within reasonable distance of her parents, provide them with comfortable housing, include them in major life decisions, and demonstrate ongoing care for their well-being. An independent family counselor must certify annually that these relationships remain healthy and mutually beneficial." David leaned forward, his face pale. "And if she doesn't meet these conditions?" The entire inheritance reverts to specified charities, and Emma receives only $100,000, Mr. Harrison said quietly. Margaret was quite explicit about her reasoning. She included a sealed letter explaining her decision. With shaking hands, he passed me an envelope marked, "To be opened only if conditions are violated." Inside Margaret's familiar handwriting covered several pages of expensive stationery. "My dearest Hester," the letter began, "if you're reading this, Emma has made the same mistakes I did when I first acquired wealth. Money without family love destroys people. I learned this through decades of loneliness, watching colleagues sacrifice relationships for status. I designed these conditions to protect Emma from becoming like me, isolated and empty despite material success. The greatest gift you gave me was unconditional love when I was dying. I want Emma to understand that value before it's too late." Mr. Harrison watched us absorb this information with growing concern. "I assumed Emma understood these terms completely. Has she not been caring for you properly?" I thought about our eviction, the cruel words, the complete abandonment, and felt a mixture of vindication and profound sadness. Margaret had been wiser than any of us realized, but the revelation came at such a devastating cost. "Mr. Harrison," I said slowly, "Emma kicked us out of our family home 3 days ago. She told us she doesn't need us anymore and blocked our phone numbers." The lawyer's face went white. "Good God. She's violated every single condition in the will. The inheritance legal review is scheduled for next week, and if the family counselor finds evidence of these behaviors, she loses everything." David finished understanding the implications immediately. "I'm afraid so," Mr. Harrison confirmed. "And given what you've told me, she's already spent considerable sums on lifestyle changes. This could be financially catastrophic for her." As we drove home in stunned silence, I felt no satisfaction in Emma's impending downfall. My daughter was about to learn the hardest lesson of her young life, and despite everything she'd put us through, my heart was breaking for her all over again. Emma's first phone call came at 6:30 the next morning. I'd been lying awake since dawn, dreading this moment while simultaneously longing for it. Her voice was barely recognizable through the tears and panic. "Mom, please, I need to see you," she sobbed into the phone. "Something terrible has happened. I think I've made a horrible mistake." Mr. Harrison had called Emma immediately after our meeting, informing her of the will's true conditions and the upcoming legal review. The reality of losing $25 million had hit her like a physical blow, but I suspected the potential loss of her parents forever was what truly terrified her. We met at Mr. Harrison's office later that morning. Emma looked like she'd aged years in a single night. Her designer clothes couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes or the way her hands trembled as she signed legal documents requesting an emergency family reconciliation review. "I never read the full will," Emma confessed, her voice breaking. "My financial advisor said the basic terms were all I needed to know. He told me the money was mine outright, no conditions attached." The same financial advisor we learned who'd convinced her that cutting ties with her working-class family was standard practice for newly wealthy individuals. Emma had fired him that morning along with several other toxic influences in her new social circle. "I'm so sorry, Mom," Emma whispered, reaching for my hand across the conference table. "I said terrible things to you and Dad. I threw away everything that mattered for people who didn't even really care about me." The apologies came in a rush, then each one more heartbreaking than the last. Emma acknowledged every cruel word, every betrayal, every moment she'd chosen her new lifestyle over her family's feelings. She'd been living in a bubble of wealth and status, surrounded by people who'd encouraged her worst impulses. "I was scared," she admitted. "Scared that if I didn't completely transform myself, I'd lose the inheritance. Those people made me believe you and Dad were holding me back, that I had to choose between my family and my future." David sat rigidly beside me, his jaw clenched with barely controlled anger. The wounds Emma had inflicted were still too fresh for easy forgiveness. But I could see the genuine remorse in my daughter's eyes, the recognition of what she'd almost lost forever. Emma's immediate actions spoke louder than her words. She'd already begun selling the unnecessary luxury purchases, terminated her memberships at exclusive clubs, and started looking for a family home where we could all live together comfortably. The mansion in Beverly Hills would be sold, she decided, because it represented everything wrong with her behavior. "I want to go to family counseling," Emma said, looking directly at both of us. "I want to understand how I became someone so horrible, and I want to earn your forgiveness properly." Over the following weeks, Emma threw herself into rebuilding our relationships with the same intensity she'd once applied to destroying them. She found us a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, not too large, but comfortable enough for 3 adults who needed to relearn how to live together. The family counseling sessions were brutal and necessary. Emma had to confront the entitled, selfish person she'd become while we worked through our pain and established new boundaries. Trust, we learned, is fragile and takes time to rebuild. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the kitchen of our new home watching Emma help David change the oil in his truck. She's wearing old jeans and has grease under her fingernails, and she looks more like my daughter than she has in nearly a year. The healing process hasn't been easy or quick. Some days, painful memories surface unexpectedly, reminding us how close we came to losing each other forever. But Emma's commitment to change has been unwavering. She returned to school, enrolled in business classes to properly manage her inheritance, and began volunteering with local charities that support working families. Margaret's wisdom becomes clearer every day. Her will wasn't designed to punish Emma, but to protect her from wealth's most dangerous temptations. Money without character truly does destroy families and souls, and Emma learned that lesson just in time. Our weekly family dinners are genuine celebrations now. Emma cooks with me, asks David about his work with real interest, and shares her struggles with managing inherited wealth responsibly. She's using Margaret's money to establish a foundation supporting working-class families facing medical crises, turning her inheritance into something meaningful beyond personal luxury. David's forgiveness came slowly built through months of consistent actions rather than empty promises. He'd been hurt deeper than I realized, but watching Emma return to her authentic self gradually softened his heart. They work on his truck together now, something they hadn't done since she was 15. The most profound change is in Emma's understanding of what wealth truly means. She's learned that money should serve relationships, not replace them. That status symbols can't fill the emptiness left by abandoned love. That the most valuable inheritance isn't measured in dollars, but in the wisdom passed between generations. Margaret's final gift wasn't just $25 million. It was the carefully constructed lesson that taught Emma to value what matters most. Family relationships are life's greatest treasure, more precious than any bank account or social status. As I watch my daughter and husband laugh together over a stubborn bolt, I think about Margaret's words. Money without family love destroys people. She saved Emma from that destruction even after death, with conditions that seemed cruel, but were actually profound acts of love. Emma almost lost everything that mattered by gaining everything she thought she wanted. But sometimes, the greatest lessons require the highest stakes, and sometimes love has to be tough enough to risk being misunderstood. What price would you pay to learn what truly matters in life? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more real-life lessons about family forgiveness and finding your way back home. Share this with someone who needs to remember that love is always worth fighting for, even when it seems lost forever. Thank you for listening to our story, and may you never take your family's love for granted the way we almost did.